honestly showing up and doing things for yourself that will benefit others, but serving you first, not in a selfish way, but in a way that will allow you to be more selfless to others.
Good morning, good life. In this episode, it's time to get into the details about real life strategies for helping you become the heroine of your own story. I am so excited to be talking with Natalie Sisson today. We're talking about being unapologetically yourself. What does it actually mean and how do you actually do it? Saying no so that it is more healthy for you to spend time on things that matter to you, and stopping yourself from that horrible, horrible habit, procrastination. It's time for some detail therapy so that you can uncover your path to going after the life you want.
She's an award-winning YouTuber and best-selling author, obsessed with helping you go after the life you want.
I like it.
Join her as she seeks out the stories and strategies
Give me every little detail.
of extraordinary people who found success.
I'm going to get emotional. Oh my God.
Welcome to Detail Therapy with Amy Landino.
Hello. This is such an exciting one for me today. I'm talking to one of, I'm not even kidding, the original digital business mentors I had on YouTube. Back in the day when I joined YouTube, there was a bunch of people making videos about all kinds of different stuff. But this lady, she was making things that were helping me see the way in creating a business around the life I want. So I'm so excited to show a little bit of my friendship with my dear friend Natalie Sisson, introduce to you what she's all about, how she's going to help you, and talk to you about her new book. More on that in just a little bit. But if you're new here, hello, my name is Amy Landino, and I will be your host. I'm a success coach and founder of Gatlu House, a resource dedicated to helping you go after the life you want. You can see all of our work, including the show notes for this podcast, by visiting detailtherapy.online. So we're about to sit down with my friend Natalie Sisson. She is the best-selling author of the new book, Suck It Up, Princess. And we're going to talk about why you need to not take that phrase personally and start listening to it so that you can start making those big moves toward your goals. Let's get into it with my friend Natalie. Natalie Sisson, welcome to Detailed Therapy. How are you?
I'm so excited to be here, Amy.
I'm so excited you're here, to the point where I'm like, ooh, I'm not even used to talking on Zoom camera for this podcast. So I forgot to ask you my first normal question. I always start with the same question. Why do you do what you do?
And it's such a great question. I do what I do because it's what lights me up. And the day that it doesn't light me up is the day that I probably won't be doing it. So I think having a really important mission, which I do, is the thing that makes me jump out of bed in the morning. And my mission is to help 1,000 women earn 10K a month and give at least 1% of that to a charity or cause that helps lift women up and create a ripple effect in the world. So when you got a mission like that, it's kind of like, I can't stay in bed this morning. I want to be up and out and helping people to just tap into their potential and get paid to be them.
100%. I love hearing that answer because it's so clear, and you can wake up every day and just have that clarity. And I think if I hear anything the most from anyone I talk to, certainly my own community, it's like getting really clear on that why can be so challenging. How long did that take you? And can you talk a little bit about your journey? Because I love hearing that clarity. And I know it's because you have experienced so much in order to be able to find it.
Yeah. And that wasn't my mission, even 2 years ago. So ironically, that came to me while I was on an indoor bike in our barn here in our lifestyle property in New Zealand. And I was actually going through a module where somebody was talking about developing your brand. And as she was talking through it, I was like, oh, I've got my mission. Honestly, it was so funny, Amy. And I leaned over to my whiteboard, which was really close, and I wrote out this mission that just came to me in the fit of inspiration while I was cycling. But if I really think about it, it had been all the work and due diligence that I'd been doing for a good year or more, probably 2 years actually. So I don't think it comes to you overnight, but it was a culmination of all the things I've done since being the Suitcase Entrepreneur, since moving back home and putting down roots and changing my whole life. And finally I was like, no, I'm ready for this. So it took a good identity change and a business change. And then I was able to find it. And yeah, and I think your mission and your why will always evolve with you, which is a really beautiful thing.
Yeah. I would love for you to just, we don't have to spend a ton of time on it, but can you give people an idea of what the chapter of your story is with Suitcase Entrepreneur and how that time may have taught you so much? Because one
Yeah.
thing, and I have to say, everybody needs to know this. You're one of the first like proper business mentors I had on YouTube. Like there weren't a lot of people talking business on YouTube in the
Oh.
early days that I was, joining, and you're one of those people. And I think that it was so fun to watch you kind of experience the world as you were also experiencing what it meant to build the business of your dreams.
Mm.
Can you just talk about that chapter and sort of like how it played a role in this?
Yeah, it's huge, and it's like shaped everything I do. So it was 2000 and end of 2009, 2010 when I had this idea for the Suitcase Entrepreneur. I had my first workshop in person. I turned it into an online course, and I was like, wait a minute, why can't I run this from anywhere in the world? Which is, so many people have that moment of, I don't need to be in this city or this place. And so I took off on a one-way flight to Buenos Aires, Argentina, and landed like with zero friends, knowing nobody. One person actually threw ultimate frisbee, which is really handy if you play a sport with a community, because you can kind of hit the ground running and make friends and have a little bit of a community. But I had to find a place. I had to figure out how terrible my Spanish was. There was really hard to rent there. There was no Airbnb. There was no Uber. This is like a long time ago, which shows my age. And I just remember being like, yeah, but I'm here. And now how do I make this work? Like, how do I sell this course online? How do I create products? How do I run a business from anywhere? And spent 5 months in Buenos Aires doing the business building bit, which is full on, and then also trying to be a tourist and finding that balance. And it was just such an interesting dichotomy of like, I should be working, I should be exploring, I should be working, I should be exploring. And then I went to Berlin for 2 months and Amsterdam for 2 months. And then, as you know, I literally hopped around the world in my suitcase for 6.5 years full time with no particular structure or plan, just where am I speaking at a conference, or where is a great conference I want to go to? Where is there a great ultimate frisbee tournament? Where's Amy? Like, I want to go and visit her. Oh, cool. She's in Miami. Let's go there. I literally did just think, where are the people I want to see? What are the places I want to go to? And got to ship myself around the world while figuring out how to run and grow and build this business. And I think a lot of people lived vicariously through me during that, or got inspired to do it themselves, because I didn't have all the answers at all, but I think I just showed what was possible when you put your lifestyle design and your desires ahead of other things like security and, a financial salary and all those things. So I think it was just inspiring for people, and it definitely drove me to just experiment and have fun with it.
Yeah. It's funny because it's like way, way, way back in the day, I read 4 Hour Work Week when it came out by Tim Ferriss. I feel like watching Natalie Sisson helped me like go like, oh, this book has actual real things like that can work, because I'm watching somebody fully like experiment with that and build that, and so that was just like so fun to watch, and I just wanted people to know about that because it's been a long time since then, just in your career.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted people to know about that because that's how I know you, and to the point where we hung out on your journey, and it was in San Diego. I don't even remember all the details of it, but what I do remember is I definitely asked you if you enjoyed how I packed my bag. Because I thought, if anyone knows how to pack luggage, it's
What did I
Natalie. And you were
say?
like, oh,
Can you remember?
I think you did a good job. And I was like, okay, good. Now, I think you were just being nice. I have no idea.
No, it's probably being honest. I can be nice but honest. Do you know what's really funny about Tim Ferriss's book, just on that note, is when it came out, I remember reading it and also thinking, this is way back. It was the same year that I was starting traveling. I was like, oh, I should meet up with Tim. Him and I sound like we're, before he blew up. But I remember also a lot of people saying when my book came out, The Suitcase Entrepreneur, they said it's like the less dramatic and way more practical way to do kind of what the 4 Hour Work Week talked about.
Yeah.
So I used to love that comment. It was just from one reader, and I was like, perfect. I'm going to put that on the page because his book is amazing, but it's very sort of sensational. And I think for a lot of people, it was very, oh, this sounds amazing, but how do you do it? Whereas I'm always about this is how you do it. Like, simplify the complex, make it happen.
You and I are kindred spirits on that level of like practicality is our middle name. And I also think that it was like, this makes a lot of sense
for an existing business. And then there's also something to be said for the fact that you can be experiencing the world and building a business at the same time. And I think that's also, just a testament to services and how somebody can be somebody who has a service-based business where it really is just like, as long as you can serve and do your job, if you can do it from anywhere, then you can do it from anywhere. Or if it's not a services-based business, just what are the details of that? But yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, is like getting to the practicality is so big for people. Yeah. Anyway,
And
so
getting
speaking
unstuck.
of getting to, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Getting to
which
the
you help them with all the
practicality.
time.
Well, hopefully.
Yeah.
You have a new book out now.
I do.
I'm very excited about it. It's called Suck It Up, Princess, Real Life Strategies to Be the Heroine You Already Are and Have the Money, Success, and Life You Deserve. So how did we get here? Why did you decide to write this book?
Well, I will tell you, never write a book because you said a phrase out loud and then somebody said, that sounds like such a great book name, you should write it. And then you go, yeah, great idea. And then figure out what the heck is the book going to be about. I kid you not, that's what happened. But it was a little voice in my head in January 2020. So right before the kind of pandemic and the virus hit, and everything was going great in my life, finances, relationship, beautiful lifestyle property we'd moved into, dogs that we love. Everything was great. And I was walking along in this park in the drizzly rain with my dogs. And I was just in this funk. And I was like, I'm so tired of being in this funk. Like, I'm normally a pretty optimistic, upbeat person. And it had just been sitting with me for too many days. And I remember just being like, what is wrong with me? And I had tears in my eyes. And then out of nowhere, I kid you not, it was like this internal voice, which was me, but not me, going, oh, suck it up, princess. And I was so shocked and taken aback. And I was like, who said? And then I was like, yeah, you're right. I just need to like literally suck it up. And I started laughing out loud. And I was like, that is such great advice. I seriously, it was like the clearest voice. It was very weird. And then that night I was telling a friend, because I was like, I feel so much better. And I'm just like, just start taking some positive action and move past this. And I already feel better. And that's when they said, you should write a book about this. So that's how it came about. But what came from it is, well, what does suck it up, princess mean? Because it's a pretty harsh phrase, right? I'm from down under, and we say things like that sometimes. We're quite like, practical, just suck it up. Or there's ruder versions in there. But what I like about it is sometimes that's actually just the advice you need to give yourself. Sometimes you need compassion, you need to take a break, you need to take a rest, you need to go easy on yourself. And sometimes you just need to call yourself on your own BS. As you'd know. And so I think the whole book has come about with personal stories and anecdotes and strategies that is literally how I've lived my life, that I think will resonate and help a lot of people, because it's not so much, oh, Natalie did this, she cycled down Africa and this is what happened. It's like more the lesson that you can take away from that. So it became quite a personal, part memoir, part self-help, part motivational, part inspirational, hopefully funny, hopefully a little bit of a tearjerker in places, but definitely a guide that's kind of like a pep talk to living your best life.
Yeah. And I can be a testament to all of those things, because I did read it and I agree. I think it definitely pulls you in so many different directions. And I think the biggest thing that I pulled from it is the concept around being unapologetically yourself. And I want to talk about that, because I think we as women are kind of obsessed with this on like a meme level, like, oh, I'm unapologetically this or that. Or we say we want to be, or we say, oh, she is so unapologetic, in a powerful way, sometimes in a negative way. But I think regardless, we're kind of obsessed with it in terms of something we want to aspire to. But I think that it can also mean that you grapple with things, right? Like just to what you said, right? You had to tell yourself, or something going on in your mind was like, suck it up, princess. What do you think about that in terms of aspiring to be unapologetically yourself? What do you think that actually means for somebody? And how can we start to learn more about ourselves so that we can get closer and be able to say like, yeah, I am unapologetically myself, even if I don't always have it figured out?
I'm really glad you said that, because I think you're right. I think a lot of people play lip service to that instead of being like, no, I am. And I think the beauty of being unapologetically yourself is being emotional on one day, or maybe erratic on another, or on a huge high one day, and then just having a bit of a funk the next. And I'm not talking about being a drama queen or a drama princess, but more importantly, just being yourself and embracing all of that. And I read a really great post the other day by a lady who said, let us have the power in the boardroom. Let us have the emotions that we want. Let us laugh out loud. Let us play too hard. Let us do all these things and not be critiqued as being too much, too critical, too angry, too over the top, too ambitious. And I was like, yeah, that's what being unapologetically me feels like. It's just being the true me, not having to hide anything, certainly not having to censor anything, but still being a generous, kind, good person. So yeah, and I think it means different things to other people, but it's really about honestly showing up and doing things for yourself that will benefit others, but serving you first, not in a selfish way, but in a way that will allow you to be more selfless to others. That's what it means to me.
So that leads me to another thought that I had was, when you're unapologetically yourself and you embrace all of those things and you don't have to feel like you're being too bossy in order to be the boss. And it's so important to have that thought process with yourself. But how do you think factoring in being able to say no better is a part of this process, and being able to say no when it's the right time versus no for no reason? Like, how much do you think this is a part of that?
Huge. And that's why I wrote a whole chapter on it, as I think you probably know. So the power of saying no, because I think I'm actually really good at it, but I've noticed so many friends and people who just say yes to things all the time because they're people pleasers or they haven't set boundaries. And more importantly, they haven't actually appreciated how precious their time is to them. And, you were talking about that in your latest episode, mate. Most people say, I don't have time for this. Well, actually, you've just given away your right to make time for it. And you've put the thing that was important to you behind the thing that's important to somebody else. Why do we do that? Why do we say, sure, I'll go and, babysit your kids, or sure, I can do that task for you. Or yes, I'll go and pick up that thing and I'll do that errand, versus, you know what? No, I've got really important things today that are my priorities. And that's where I'm putting my time. But here's somebody who could help you, or here's a suggestion on how you could do that for yourself. So it's a really important chapter. And it's something that I continually practice, and I've seen incredible benefits from, because the minute you say no to the things that don't serve you or burden you, that's when you get to say yes to the opportunities that are really amazing. And you stop being resentful to the people that you've now said yes to, which it's just a simple no or no thank you. It really is. So I do go through a chapter in the book where I share how to do that for people who really struggle with it. And it's a muscle you get to exercise.
And I'm glad you said that, because I think that's exactly what it is. And maybe it's like baby steps, right? Because saying no to something that's just so far away from you and what's important to you is like, oh, I can say no to that. That's an easy thing to say no to, that I wouldn't have even thought about it. I would have just accepted the calendar request or whatever, right? Just say no to it. But then as you take these baby steps and they get closer and closer, I think I hear the conversation a lot, and it's perspective that I can't actually offer is, well, what if it's like, I can't say no to my family. I can't say no to my kids. I can't say no. I say no to my husband, though. I can offer that perspective. So, but I also say yes to him in a lot of ways. And there are things that we are 100% with each other, and we know we'll say yes to each other every time, because we know it's building us, it's building our family. So I guess, what are your thoughts on that? Is there confusion of like how to say no, or who you should say no to? Or is it like just too easy to say, I can't say no because I have all these bosses around, and they're my kiddos, and they're telling me what I got to do, and I got to do it?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I actually think family is probably one of the first places to start with. It's probably one of the scariest. But if I think about a really good example, I love my sister, but she is the master of asking me to do things, especially when I was a kid. Nat, could you go and get the scissors so that we could play Lego and do this? And I'd be like, okay. And I just remember throughout all of my childhood growing up, I just kind of do whatever, because I loved her and I looked up to her. And then I got to this point where I was like, why am I doing all these things all the time? And it took quite a lot of guts, I think, and courage. And she probably wouldn't even know this. But as I got older, to actually just say, no, I can't help you with that today, or no, I'm not going to go and do that thing. And I remember her being pretty surprised the first few times, kind of like, huh, and, looking a bit peeved. But then it just got easier. And then, she made fewer requests, and suddenly it was like, oh, that was so much easier than I thought. So I think I know that makes it sound so easy, but your friends, your closest friends and your family are actually the ones that you probably have to pay most attention to, especially those who just lean on you and rely on you. And I think you're actually doing them a disservice by saying yes all the time, because you're not teaching them to take responsibility and take control and step up and do those things themselves. And in my sister's case, that was quite often the thing. It was lazy, or she just couldn't be bothered, and Nat's an easy target. And then when I started saying no, she's like, oh, actually, well, I can do this. I'm capable. And it's a bit of a small example, but I think they actually turn into really big things.
They do.
Same with colleagues, right? Like, people will, you know how they always say, choose a busy person to get things done. But your colleagues will come to you if you're in a job, or, you know, if you've got lots of bosses, as you said. And I actually think by stepping up and saying, no, I can't do that because you've given me these priorities. If you'd like me to take one of these priorities off my list, then I can make room for it, is a really clear indication to them that, oh, I see she's overloaded. And yeah, feel free to drop that one and do this instead. Or actually, you know what, I'll go and give it to John down the hall. So it's just, I think it actually places more respect up front, and people start to go, oh, she's got boundaries. That's great. I'll remember next time not to push so much on her or him. So it actually does you a lot of service, and it also helps them at the same time. It just feels at the time because you're so used to acquiescing.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, we're also waiting for that moment when someone's going to call us a name or say, oh, you know, you're not who I thought you were, is essentially what happens, right? When somebody's like, you're so this or you're so that. And that's what we're always trying to avoid. But then in the same token, back to the original point, it's like, no, we're going to be unapologetically ourselves when we make that decision, when we say no, that's who we are. So get on board and start learning how to do things.
Exactly. And if they're guilt tripping you, going, oh, I thought you were more generous than that, like, that's all on them. That's their problem. You've actually given away your power so much that now they just need to learn that you've taken it back. And that is totally on them. You are not a bad person for saying no, you're a good person, because you probably said it, you've guessed too many times. So when people do that, it makes me more thankful that I said no, because I was like, you don't actually deserve my time if you don't value it. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So there was another big point in the book that I wanted to just ask you about, because I feel like even in the journey of being the heroine of your own story, it can be very easy to procrastinate, right? And procrastination is just like this bad habit that doesn't seem to go away. On the outside, sometimes somebody who we admire, like Nat, is like, oh my gosh, like, you probably don't ever procrastinate because you've just done so much in your life and you're doing all these things and you own these properties and you have these businesses. Like, how did you get past the procrastination is probably the question you hear. But I'm curious of the same thing. Like, what does that look like in your life, and how do we all start to get past it?
Yeah, I think you'd potentially agree that I think procrastination is the flip side of perfectionism, and they're almost the same thing. So I know a lot of perfectionists out there who never ship anything or do anything because they're waiting for everything to be perfect, which is actually a form of procrastination. And I think how I got past it early in life is, one, I've actually really just always had this gung-ho attitude to get stuff done, sometimes to my detriment, like, let's get it done. My partner Josh sometimes is like, do we have to do that today? And I was like, yeah, because I think it's going to be great. And it's using your energy in that moment when you've got the motivation to take small little steps. It then turns into this ripple effect and can be quite powerful. But the biggest thing for me is that I just always have this thing of life is short. And if it's important to me, I will put the most important thing first, and then I'll just make it happen. It's the whole eat the frog, which I know you talk about a lot. It really does work, and it may seem scary, but once I start on just one small little bit of it, it does create its own momentum. So as long as I know I've taken one step on a big, hairy, scary project, like writing this book in the middle of a lockdown, in the middle of the grief of the pandemic and all the movements that were happening, it was really hard to sit there and try and write a book that was hopefully fun and inspiring and motivating when I knew that people around the world were grieving, including myself. But I was like, well, you know, people have already pre-ordered this book. You've got a service to do this, and maybe it'll be a cathartic experience for you. And I just started with one page at a time. And suddenly, before you know it, you've written chapters. And then before you know it, you've written a book. And that's the thing. It's the imperfect action of just getting started that does it for me every time. And I do, again, think that's an exercise you have to muscle, and an exercise you have to muscle, a muscle you have to exercise. And if you're not good at it, it's like the whole atomic habits kind of thing, that you find one thing that, okay, if I do 15 minutes on this, then I get to go and watch yoga, or then I get to go and watch Amy TV. And just that 15 minutes can have a life-changing effect.
And don't you think just taking, I mean, and it sounds so dumb, right? This is what I think is so funny about the like take a small step advice is like, oh yeah, I know I can take a small step, Amy and Nat. Like, yes, 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 I get it. But isn't it funny when you actually do take the small step and you say, I'll just do this little bit and then you do a little bit more, because suddenly like the step is the literal gravitational pull to the
Yeah.
momentum and the motivation that everyone's asking, where am I going to get this motivation? Where am I going to get this motivation? And it's just like you create it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've watched my mum do this all throughout her life. She'll be like, I'll just start painting the bathroom. And then before you know it, she's like renovated the house. And I know that sounds crazy, but I do the same. I'll just tidy up this bit of my office so I feel there's less clutter and I can get on. And before you know it, you've rearranged stuff. And it's such a brilliant feeling, but you start small. You don't go in going, I need to, that's what most people do. They're like, I need to clean the entire office today. No, you just need to clean that small little spot on your desk. And before you know it, you've probably cleaned it all. As you said, it's just the tiniest little thing that you can do will turn into a massive ripple effect.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, it wouldn't be detail therapy if I didn't get into the details with you, Natalie Sisson. So let me start with, what does your morning routine look like?
Ooh, so good. It's changing a little at this moment, but
Yeah.
predominantly it is a morning meditation. I actually do my morning meditation from bed. I know there's lots, studies that say you should sit up and do all this stuff, but I tend to just really enjoy it. I'm already awake, and I really love that just quiet time before the dogs stir and before we get out of bed to just do that. I use Insight's timer, which I love, and I usually have bookmarked a couple that I really want to listen to. 10 to 20 minutes. And then I get up and I go, we have a little room that's dedicated to yoga. So I get up and I go and do yoga. I usually use yoga with Adrienne or yoga with Cassandra, and they have these beautiful 10-minute morning routines. So even if I only have 10 minutes, I just move my body. And now that I'm pregnant, I was trying to do the good old downward dog and upward facing dog the other day. And I was like, oh, there's a belly in the way now. It was crazy how your body changes. So I'm actually switching more into pregnancy Pilates. But either way, I love to move my body in the morning, and I have been walking the dogs every single morning. So we live on the back of kind of a forest, and I'm just finding that every single morning for half an hour, I head up some pretty steep hills, slowly but surely, in the quietness of nature, which I respect immensely, and it just lights my soul up. So rain or shine, I just take them on a walk. The dogs love it. As you know, dogs are so much fun. There's such good motivation to get you out of the house. And I'm just finding that is my grounding. It's so precious. So that's what I do first thing in the morning before I do anything. And then I have breakfast because I'm usually starving. And then I will get into my 3 most important things of the day.
Love that. I love that. I'm going to ask you this question. You may have already said it, but maybe not. When you think of something that you're doing and you feel in your element, what is that thing and how often do you get to do it?
I do love podcast interviews. So I have a podcast as well. And I think even if I'm sometimes like, oh, I've got to get like ready for this, I just love great conversations and great insights and asking questions and being asked great questions, because I actually think it gets you to be really introspective, reflective. And I think we need to do more of that rather than go, go, go. And I just love connecting with people and finding out about them and showing them how to tap into their potential, or teaching or sharing or learning. So I'm usually in the flow when I'm doing that, either teaching or learning, I guess. And also with that, I would just say another thing I get in the flow with is just thinking big about projects that are coming up and looking at all the possibilities and working out the financials, not so like full on into the accounting side, but just what's the goal? What's the mission? Whose lives could we impact? How do we take that back to what do we need to do tomorrow? I really love starting projects. I have a lot of starter energy, and I've had to develop a lot of finisher energy until I, got a small team. But yeah, I really love starting projects and helping people start projects.
I totally agree with that. I have a lot of starter energy too.
Yeah,
That's a good one. I love that. Would you consider yourself an organized person? And if so, what habits do you have? Or maybe if you're not an organized person, like what habits do you use or lean on, or tools that you use to help you stay that way?
I am a really organized person, but I've also got a lot of freedom within that. So I love the constraints that I can put around myself, and then I have freedom within that. I actually had a friend around the other day who said, oh, you should put shelves up in this part of your garage so you can put that away. And he pointed at this one little bit of the garage that's not organized. And I was like, oh, how dare you? And I actually realized it like was a little trigger and motivation for me to like, right, we need to get that corner sorted, because our house is very chill and chi, and I love not having clutter. Doesn't mean that there's bits in my office where things start to pile up, but in general, I have really good systems for where I put things, where I place things, even if I do lose my key card quite a lot. And I have good systems online in my folders, everything. So I have a certain level of really good organization and detail, but I never go that detailed. And I think that's cool. Like, I think there's people who are super anal about that, and it's great, but I have enough that I know exactly what I need and where it is and what I want to do with it. And it makes me feel like Zen-like when I can look around and go, yes, everything has its place.
Where's your go-to like digital home base? Like, you wake up in the morning and find out what you're up to today. What are you looking at?
Oh, you mean like digital online, not the place
whether it's like
into?
your calendar or like a project manager or anything that's just like, okay, where does my head need to be today?
Yeah. So two things: my Life Pilot geeky spreadsheet, which is a tool that Josh and I created to turn your dreams into reality. So I will open up my Life Pilot spreadsheet and go, ooh, what did I put as my 3 for the week? My 3 big goals or intentions across my life, not just work. And then what did I put for today? And then I will open my Google Calendar, and I'm doing a much better job of what Amy does expertly, which is calendar blocking. And I've been doing that a lot more often, and I just find it awesome. Even if I don't hit the exact thing that I put in at that time, I'm very aware now of the things that I want to get done, and then I can shift them. And, I'm flexible enough that if I decided to go out for lunch or have a cafe friend visit, I can switch that. But it's so good for just going, there's not actually that many hours in a day. And especially now that my energy is a little less than what it normally is, I sort of have good 4 to 5 hours of focus a day, and that's it. And so I'm grappling with, oh, well, then what do I fit into that time that's really important? So it's good for me. It's teaching me some new things.
Awesome. I love that. Okay. I just want everybody to hurry up and go get the book. Suck It Up, Princess. By the time this podcast is out, it's available. So what are the different formats that we can find it, Nat?
You can get it in paperback, you can get it in Kindle or, EPUB, and it will be available on Audible probably by the time this comes out, because I am in the process of recording the audiobook, because that's what us podcasters do. We can just grab the mic and start reading. So I'm excited about that. I love reading my own audiobooks. I don't know why people would have somebody else read their book for them. I think it's really important that the author does their own, right? Unless they have like a 1,000-page book and they just don't like the sound of their voice.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen it done a couple times where it maybe made sense that the author didn't do it, but it's rare. It has to be a very special type of manual for that to be the case. But yes, true. I'm so excited to hear your voice on the Audible then. That's great. Love that. Okay, everybody go check out Natalie's Suck It Up Princess. Check out Natalie's website. Everything will be in the show notes. My final question for you today, Nat, before I let you go. What does it mean to you to go after the life you want?
It means everything in the world to me, because when I am doing that, I'm at my happiest and my lightest, and the life that I want is actually the life that I have.
Thanks for being on the show, Natalie.
You're so welcome. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh my gosh, that was just so much fun. I love chatting with Natalie. It's just such a blast. Make sure you head over to Amazon, get yourself a copy of Suck It Up Princess, because we all need a little bit of that slap in the face every once in a while, right? So go pick it up, check it out. I'm actually going to give away one copy right now since you're still here listening to this show. Bless your heart. Head over to Instagram at Details Podcast. Leave a comment on Natalie's face. There should be a post there with Natalie's face talking about this podcast episode. Tell me your favorite part of this episode, and you could win a copy of Suck It Up Princess. That's all for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it as always. Remember, subscribe for good vibes, kiss the ones you love, and go after the life you want. I'll see you back here.